everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me once again for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning and focus. Combination, just love the zing and the bergamot, guys. So good, so good. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee. Maybe something harder, as always say. Depends on what part of the planet you're on. So I took some notes today. Actually, yesterday. Let me just preface this video with, yes, this video is going to be about the Fujifilm X-H2S that I've been waiting for the last 3.5 years or something, a long time. Been talking about it, really been excited about it coming out because I wanted to see what they were going to do with it. I think APS-C is that good enough spot where not everyone needs full frame. Everyone thinks they need full frame, but you really don't. But I still like full frame. So the majority of the equipment that I do have or that I do use is full frame. So putting that out there to begin with. So slightly biased, but I've been waiting once again for this for quite some time. Now, I recorded the video of this X Summit yesterday. I watched it through and through multiple times. I watched reviews from the shills and some non-shills, but majority shills, and just to see how the camera would perform, because of course I do not have the camera to test because I'm not on the good list, I guess. That being said, I recorded this video yesterday and I was going to release it, and I said, you know, I'm just being too hard on this camera. Without having it and watching all of the videos, even though I saw a lot of things I didn't like, there's still a lot that's going on in this camera that I do. So I kind of want to redo this a little bit and give you my take on it. And then most importantly, as I always say about this channel, I want to know your thoughts on it, because that's definitely more important than my thoughts. I'm just some guy on YouTube, right? Don't listen to me. I mean, yeah, I've been doing photography and videography, and I've been a DP and all the rest of this stuff for the last 20 plus years, but still, I have not tested this camera. So take that into consideration and everything I say with a grain of salt. Once again, I want to hear your thoughts. So before we get into it, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks as of yet, go pick them up. They are free. Go over to JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. Pick them up. Once again, they are 100% free for you today. Go grab them. So I took down some notes, and let me preface this with, I do believe that if you are a foreign company to the land where you're going to sell your product, when you do a flagship, most importantly, release or introduction or announcement to a product, you do it in the tongue, the native tongue of that release, wherever it's going. So if Fujifilm was going to release this into Germany, which they are, I think that they should have a German announcer. Some of the German partners, let's say, that are over there that can speak about the new flagship product in the tongue that it is going to be sold. The same thing here. When I was watching the Fujifilm's X Summit, it is painful at best to watch. Painful.
The fifth generation CMOS sensor employs stacked layer structure. By placing the chips that process and read out signals on the back of the sensor surface.
HEIF in particular is a file format with high compression efficiency. It is 10-bit, meaning it has 1 billion colors of information.
If you have not seen it as of yet, go watch it. Maybe I'll play some here. I just can't, guys. I can't. When you're used to, you know, like a Steve Jobs introducing the new piece of crap iPhone, and by the time you're done watching the damn thing, you're like, oh my God, I have to have this iPhone. This thing is amazing. And it's still the same piece of crap as it was the iPhone prior to that. But I think that is very important to be able to articulate what you're trying to articulate in the announcement. And going from the Japanese to the English and the broken English and how they actually deliver is just so dry that it's just, you can't. It is just not. Okay, that's just my opinion. Once again, this is just my opinion. I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know. So anyways, I wrote down a bunch of information here, and I want to share it with you, and let's see where we go with it. Now, the camera is their flagship, their H2S, which we've been waiting for a long time. And while it is retro, let's say, in vibe, I think the retro has kind of fallen away a little bit. So I want to talk to you guys about that before the end of this video. Now, as far as the top features, I think is very important because a lot of people select their camera based on the features that they like. And the top features in this camera is, number one, it does have that new 26.1 megapixel sensor. Now, it is not a bare array sensor. It is an X-trans sensor. So 50% of you are going to be like, yeah, that's great. And then 50% are going to be like, oh, why isn't it a bare array? So, but what they did do right is it is a stacked sensor, unlike other companies. We won't get into it. Just did a video. Anyways, so stacked sensor meaning that you're going to have less rolling shutter, right? And I think that that's very, very important because if you're using this camera for video, and that's what this camera is all about, it's very video centric, you want to make sure you have the least amount of rolling shutter possible. Also, the amount of frames per second that this thing will do is absolutely sick. So rolling shutter is very important not to have. You don't want that jello effect. If you don't know what a rolling shutter is basically if you take a picture of someone swinging a club and the club looks like it's a piece of taffy, well, that's rolling shutter. If you look at a plane and the prop is spinning and that looks kind of all bent, the props are all bent like taffy, that's rolling shutter. Okay? I'm not going to get into the difference between rolling shutter or between an electronic shutter that is capturing or scanning a sensor in comparison to a global shutter that doesn't scan the sensor. It takes the entire frame, all the pixels at a time. This way you don't get it at all. Eventually all cameras will have a global shutter, but that's for another video. Anyways, as far as other niceties, it does have in-body image stabilization, up to 7 stops of compensation, which is fantastic. It will shoot 15 frames per second mechanical shutter or 40 frames per second electronic shutter. That is fast as hell. And if they didn't have that stack sensor, it will never happen. So 40 frames per second is quite amazing, quite amazing. That's really good if you're going to be a sports, action, wildlife, birder, or something that is going to be traveling through your line of sight extremely quickly. Maybe a football player or maybe a F1 race car or something. 40 frames per second plus the stack sensor, not bad at all. Now, they do talk about their subject detection and how they have advanced it to now having not only the face and eye tracking, but now it has car tracking, plane tracking, bird tracking, horse tracking, dog tracking, cat tracking, and UFO tracking. Maybe not the UFOs, but everything else. It'll track everything. And the videos that I've seen on that are quite amazing. I saw a dog running towards, I don't remember what video it was, but running towards the camera, and it's literally locking in on the eyes. I'm like, wow, that's pretty damn good, Fuji. Not bad, not bad. Very Canon, or let's call it Sony-esque, where it just locks in those eyes and it doesn't want to break free of them. And I think a lot of it also will have to do with the processing that's happening in this camera. Faster processing, the more AI that you can have going on in the background, the faster it can actually lock in and stay sticky to those eyes. You know, talking about AI, they were saying that through AI, they're going to get better face detection also. And they said now it does detect hairlines, glasses, and masks, or as they call it, facial coverings. So yeah, masks. If you're wearing your party mask or some type of Halloween mask or whatnot, it will detect still your eyes right through the mask. So that's really pretty cool. Also, it will be able to shoot 6.2K. Not bad, at 30 frames per second. Now that's ProRes HQ 10-bit RAW 422. Now, remember, you will need to use a CFexpress, a fast CFexpress card. Now, the price of this camera is $2,500. You need to add another $400, $500, $600 for one of these high-end, depends on the size, CFexpress cards. It will also do 4K at 120 frames per second maximum, but it does crop in to like 1.29x or somewhere around there. You know, you're getting really close to like a micro four thirds the time you're done. You know, not happy with that, but it kind of is what it is. Now, as far as full HD or 1080, it will go all the way up to 240 frames per second, 240p. That's nice in comparison to 120p that a lot of manufacturers are doing. So not bad at all. It also does record F-Log2. That's really quite nice. That will provide what they say 14 stops of dynamic range. That's a bunch of dynamic range. I would like to see that in practice. Now, we've seen some of the Shills put out videos, of course, on the first day that the camera is announced. And when you look at them, watch those as you watch my video with a nice helping of salt, because not a grain, like a full hand. Because remember, when a company sends these shills a camera, their understanding is they're going to get a good review. Now, will they talk about some negatives? Yeah, but very minuscule, because they want to make sure that when the next release comes out, they receive that camera. No manufacturer is going to send someone a camera before the flagship even comes out to do a review that's going to be a negative review. Just think about it. It just simply wouldn't make sense. I wouldn't do it, period, right? This is not rocket science. But a lot of people take what they see in reviews the same day the announcement comes out as gold, as law. And it's just simply not that. It's not that. Just understand what it is. So some of the videos that I did see, they looked really good, whereas other ones, they were like, look at this IBIS and how good this is, and it was still a little bit shaky. I'm like, do you see that it's shaky? And then I looked at some of the other things, and I'm like, looking at the actual dynamic range, I'm like, that's kind of blown out. Did you miss it? Or was that what happened there? It's not, and they're saying one thing, but then you're looking at it and you're getting something else. Now, is that not the shill not knowing how to use, post-production properly? Is that possibly just, who knows what the story could be? But it is what it is. Now, they did announce a bunch of lenses. Now, a few of them are the 18 to 120 f4. You're looking at $900 for that one. The 150 to 600 f5.6 to f8, that's at $2,000. Now, where things get a little bit pricey, and as they should, I suppose, is in their cine lenses, right? They're cinema-specific lenses. They're MKX lenses. Now, they have an MKX 18 to 55, 2.9. You're looking at $4,000. And then they have an MKX 50 to 135, 2.9, also $4,300. So we're not talking about cheap here. This is expensive. But once again, it is cinema oriented, and cinema lenses are expensive. Now, a few of the accessories that they talked about was a cooling fan, for example. And when I saw the cooling fan, I'm like, damn, it's exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's a cooling fan with 2 screws. You drill it into the back, and that's what cools the camera. What the hell is that? If you're doing a cinema-esque, cinema-centric camera, put the damn cooling inside of it. It needs to be there. Obviously, if you're going to throw a $500 CF card into this thing and you're going to record 422, 10-bit, 6.2K, and all the rest of this stuff, well, you need to cool the damn thing. And Fujifilm realized it, and most likely it was an afterthought. And they came out with this fan that you screw into the back. Don't do that. It just looks like a Canon R5 screw up. At least Canon said, hey, we screwed up. We're going to put out a Canon EOS R5C, which is cinema-centric. video-centric. What do? They put an active cooling system into it, so there's a fan built into it, just like their C-series, a C100, 200, 300, 500, 700. It has active cooling in it. If you're going to make this camera video-centric, put the damn cooling inside of it, not an afterthought. It feels like an afterthought. Anyways, Fuji, I don't know. That just didn't make too much sense to me. Now, also, it has two different grips. A standard grip will run you back about $400, and it'll just give you a means of shooting in both landscape as well as portrait, but also the extra charging because you have a couple of batteries in it. Now, where things once again kind of goes sideways is in this new file transmitting grip. It's the same type of grip, but it has an Ethernet port in it, and it costs $1,000. And I'm like, Jesus, that's a lot of money. So I researched a little bit more, and it's not just a file transfer grip. And I don't think a lot of people have been speaking about this. What's really amazing about this is it allows you to connect 4 of these X-H2Ss together and then control them from, like, let's say an iPad or something, so that you have full control over each one of them. Maybe not PTZ control, but let's say control of your ISO, your shutter, what's going on with the camera. So you don't have to go camera to camera to camera to change things if you are like a one-man band and you have 4 cameras going. That's pretty cool. It's $1,000 though. So for me, if I was going to do that, I would probably just simply run it into some type of HDMI port or deck that then brings it into the computer for later on. I'll do some post-production in it. I get what they're doing here, but it's almost like what you would want to do if you were going to use it for like a live broadcast or something and you do not have a cam op to be able to be behind the camera. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't know how many of these $1,000 grips are going to sell, but we will see. Once again, what are your thoughts on it? Now, the couple issues that I have are, number one, it has one single CFexpress card in comparison to 2. Or you can look at it, it has one SD card instead of 2. It feels very yesterday, right? So many of these camera manufacturers were doing that for quite some time. They would put in either 2 different cards. So you have a CFexpress and then you have an SD card, or you'll have an SD UHS-2 in comparison to a UHS-1. You have 1, 2 and 1, 1. What the? So now you can't record the same thing that you can record on both because you have different speeds. The same thing with this. If you want to do that high speed or high bit rate, you're going to need to put CFexpress into it and not SD. So now there's no backup. Just because you have 2 cards, it doesn't mean that you have a backup. So if you're doing 1080p, yeah, okay, you maybe have a backup. But if you want to do like what this camera is capable of doing, there's no backup. At that point, just use an Atomos or something. Use a Ninja, record off camera, external to the camera, and call it a day. So I thought that was stupid. Also, I think that the fan is, once again, an afterthought. I think it is every bit of ridiculous, period. Just simply ridiculous. Now, the other thing that I wasn't really a fan of is that it kind of lost some of the vibe for me, that retro vibe. I love the retro camera. I come from film. I just simply like retro. And what they did with this camera is the same thing that they did with the GFX50S. If you look at that camera, it has 2 dials on the top. It looks very retro. You have complete control from the top of the camera. Now, if you look at the GFX50S2, the Mark II now loses a dial. And now it's looking almost identical to this. And I like tactile controls. I like to be able to just look at the camera, flip something, do my compensation, just do everything from the top of the camera and not inside of a damn menu, inside a sub menu and a sub to the sub to the sub menu. That's just the way I work. That's the way I like it. So I don't think that they should have done that. That's just my opinion. Once again, what are your thoughts? The other thing to this is the point that the price of it being $2,500 is fine, but being a video-centric camera, that $2,500 expands really quickly. So if you get, for example, one of their $1,000 grips, and then you add to it the 2 cine lenses that they're releasing, the MKXs, right? When you combine these together, you end up with $10,000. $10,000, guys, $10,000. So the question at that point is an APS-C camera that does have a stack sensor that will shoot 6.2K worth the $10,000 price tag. Now remember, that doesn't include backup CFexpress cards and the original CFexpress card that's probably run you back $400 to $500 and audio and all the rest of the stuff. You're talking more than 10K. I just don't know if it's going to be worth it for cinematographers, videographers, people that are constantly shooting video. For me, I mean, I'm shooting on a Panasonic S1H, I'm shooting on EVA 1s, Sony FX3s, FX6, FX9, I'm shooting on all of the C series, well, not all, not the C100s or 200s, usually a C300, a C500, every once in a while a C700. That's like $40,000. That's an expensive camera. But those are the units that I'm using. And think about what's going on with all those units. Like every single one of them has a built-in fan. They all have active cooling. So that's once again why I think that this camera should have been actively cooled. I could see why they didn't do it, but it should have been. That's my personal opinion. So this is my thoughts on it. Once again, just some guy on YouTube. I want to know your thoughts. I was so excited for this camera, so excited, because I've been waiting once again for 3.5 years or so, and I just wanted to see what Fuji did with it, and I really do think that all the specs are there that I was looking for. There's really nothing missing, but I feel like it's just, I don't know. I feel like they dropped it a little bit, but the price is right if you're just buying the camera. If you're going video-centric and you want to buy their lenses, and if you go with this file transfer grip, you're talking about a big, big chunk of money. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please throw it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and click this little bell icon over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all. Take care.